Welcome to Money on Tap. Money on Tap, your personal finance headquarters, where we bring out the professionals' experience and some fun in what we call three-dimensional investing, utilizing insurance, brokerage, and fee-based planning. That's what we do on this show. We look at all sides of the issues, and we bring a fully independent planning perspective to the table.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. My name is Seth Cressman, and the us is Dan Mickelin and Ben Brayshaw. How are you guys doing today?
Doing great, Seth. Getting ready to enjoy a wonderful show and then get out in some heat. We got a 90-degree day in New Hampshire. It's absolutely unbelievable.
Oh, my Lord. That's good news for you.
It is.
Well, I'm doing good. Thanks, Seth. Appreciate it. This show is going to be very interesting. I'm actually curious where kind of this whole thing kind of spins out, Seth. I think this is one of those things where I'm like, man, how are we going to land this plane? Because this is going to be an interesting one.
Going to cover the entire U.S. If you're joining us today for the first time, it's a lot of fun for us to have you here and to be here doing this show. Money on Tap, what are we all about? First of all, we want to thank you for subscribing to our podcast. And when you do that, make sure that you drop us an email with your info, because we love to send you out some Money on Tap gear. And we're talking about the stuff that clients come from near and far to make sure that when we do reviews and we're spending time with them, that they're loading up on some of our Money on Tap gear. It's the good stuff, people. You don't want to miss out on that. We appreciate you for being with us on Money on Tap. And with that, Ben, Dan, the title today is Boomer Approved Moves, Your Next Step in Real Estate. So, I'm with you too. I mean, we're going to have Brad Wolf on the show with us as a guest today. Brad brings a ton of experience to the table. One of the top realtors, really with not only within the Portland market, but is really nationally known inside of real estate because of, some of the niches that he has just developed in his business. And he's going to bring that experience to the table with you. So no matter where you are at in the U.S., you're going to want to make sure you're tuned in to the topic of conversation and what Brad has to share with us here today. You're also going to probably want to give him a call, because I guarantee you there's somebody in your family that needs to talk to him or his team to make sure that you're getting the answers and the solutions and the people in place to be successful in moving. And you know what? Real estate. With that, it's also this Boomer Approved Moves. We've gone ahead and Boomer approved it for you guys today, or gotten it into that sweet spot of our listeners and our families, which is the Boomer generation. And it's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to get this show rocking.
I really, I think for our listeners, the thing about Brad is that he's a senior specialist when it comes. He's obtained that designation for real estate transition. And, I've done tons of seminars over the last couple of decades, spoken in a number of different, public events and forums. And one of the things I always mention to people is that, do you know what the largest investment of your life is? And you get all sorts of different things from the, from the personal, like my family, my spouse, my marriage, to, my 401k. But, the biggest financial investment for most people is their home. Their home. And, with what's going on in our world, higher interest rates, home prices are rising, you need somebody who understands the market and who's, a trusted senior advisor and, that understands how to mitigate cost, expenses. And for some of you, you've owned this house for 20 or 30 years or 40 years, or, it's like this is, or you're also dealing with the fact that maybe your parents are trying to, downsize and they're not, their health is bad. And, and you need to sell their house and you're not in that area and you don't want them taken advantage of. These are all concerns for a multi-generational scenario that I'm excited to have Brad on the call. I mean, this is going to be a great show. This is going to be a really good show.
We know that you guys can't wait to get into that with us. And, we're going to have a little fun first, right? We're going to drop this in with some money in the news.
First up today from Martin Bracado at The Street. Tesla has big problems in China. It might have a new one in Europe, too. And I'd tack onto the headline here and say there's kind of an ongoing Tesla issue here in the U.S. as well. And that's been felt throughout portfolios across the country here as Tesla stock's down about 25% year to date, which has, removed $195 billion in market cap. And I think, Elon Musk is one of our favorite topics, and Tesla as a company is something that we spoke about at length over the years. But there's a couple factors kicking in here that I think are, really spelling trouble potentially for the stock, although not everybody sees it that way. But Tesla sales have slipped, here in the U.S., and we've talked about that at length with the EV infrastructure just simply not existing to the levels that our government wish it did, and kind of all those programs that were pushing us into EV purchases, were designed to accomplish, again, the charging stations and everything we need to make that even a possibility just simply don't exist at this point. But in Europe, Tesla's experienced a dip in sales. In China, that's been an ongoing trend. But what's concerning about that, I think here in the U.S., the EV market overall has been depressed, and Tesla is clearly the bigger player. But in Europe and in China, EV sales themselves across the board are up considerably. It's just Tesla that's slipping. So they have an issue that isn't really tied to the electric vehicle as a whole industry. It's really specific to Tesla.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, Dan, too, that and I really do think it's interesting that the EV sale period is up, which is concerning a lot of investors. And then meanwhile, Warren Buffett, he backed this BYD, and, they've surged nearly 50% to 312 vehicles sold. I mean, that's just it's a little bit overwhelming to see a disparity. I mean, I would feel better. I think most investors would feel better knowing that, Tesla's down and sales are down for them, but so is the whole market. Now, we have seen some compression in the U.S. marketplace for sure. There's been a lot of conversation about, EV vehicles not running in the cold and the weather and stuff. So that's a complication. I do think there's a lot going on here. Now, the article does touch on, and we've talked about this, how, Musk has talked about taking, his AI related ambitions, which is a quote from the article, kind of off and do something separate, and he's got, the space company, and that's potentially, not space, but the, his,
SpaceX.
Yeah, SpaceX. And, taking that separate, and everyone wants these things tied into Tesla so that they get value out of it. But the article makes kind of a very sly statement to say, and it makes you really wonder deeper. It says that, Musk may need Tesla more than Tesla needs Musk. I thought that was an interesting phrase. I read through that a little bit, but I think you could read in deeper to that, to kind of almost an unknown extent of what they're speaking about. So,
yeah, it covers a lot of ground. For one, when you start talking about the slump in sales, and then you're putting China in there, how much can you actually control that piece of the pie? You can't. You just. China says, guess what? We're going to buy our own electric vehicle. And guess what? They're going to buy their own electric vehicle. And there's no way around that. The control that they have over that whole funnel is just masterful. What else are you going to say? But what is it? The 55.8 billion pay package. I think that's kind of where they're tying that in, as far as, he needs them more than vice versa. But yeah, it's a little interesting dilemma. Now, my money's on Musk. That's the way it goes around in the Crustman household. Our money's on Musk. Love that guy. And everybody.
That's not a solicitation to purchase Musk. Tesla, by the way, anybody who's listening.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no. And I don't even own a Tesla. So there you go.
So we're driving around in our Suburbans.
Yeah, I did. Well,
I own a red wagon. That's what we're using right now.
Next up, we have why Microsoft is spreading its AI bets to PC. Software giant stock has lagged behind peers as investors worry about AI costs and the time to pay off, by Dan Gallagher. This is a Wall Street Journal article. Man, there's so much conversation about AI, and there's a lot of conversation about Microsoft, Apple, Alphabet, Amazon, how all of these companies, I mean, when you start talking about AI, the depth of which it goes is almost endless because of how people are using it, who's manufacturing the equipment, who's writing the code, who's benefiting from the code. Like, there's just so many moving parts to it. Microsoft, is one of these companies that, their technology space is very complicated. I mean, their new machines, they use Qualcomm Snapdragon processors. There's lots of different moving parts inside this, and people are really concerned if Microsoft is going to be a real delay in the payoff of actual AI value to the company, where their software is such a huge financial benefit to them. Is AI going to be not the performer but the lagger to their financial underpinnings as you move forward? How long is it going to take? They continue to go into the article talking about Alphabet, or Google's parent, and what they're doing and so forth. They talk about Apple and how they sold $30 billion worth of Macs in a 12-month period. All of these new hardware purchases are significantly focused on AI generation. And I don't know about you guys, but we use AI. We use AI in all sorts of parts of our business, and it's really very interesting how it is playing a role. And the backbone of these AI is really complicated. I was watching CNBC yesterday, and they were talking about AI and the investment in AI and the various new investments where billions of dollars are sliding to these companies. And they're just monitoring AI investment on AI investment. And the truth is as an investor, like advice to investors, you really don't know who's going to be the winner. Right, guys? I mean, I continue to wonder how AI truly shakes out, because there's going to be a couple of dominant forces. I mean, we've looked at AI generators, right, Seth? And we've talked about, like, this one does better than that on this thing, but this does better on that on this. Like, there's going to be a few winners in this space, but there's going to be a lot of losers. And I think that's where the investment world is very, very concerned. And that's why this article spends a lot of time talking about, how much time is it going to take for your return on investment to be realized. And Microsoft, I think they have to be in the space, but I actually think it's a significant drag on their profitability right now, as the article talks about.
I think with this AI thing, they've kind of hit the second phase of it from a corporate perspective. There was all these years we've been talking about the development of, and there's been kind of beta testing on different online tools and with ChatGPT and all that stuff. Now I think you see Microsoft is making the move to push the AI into their hardware, into their laptops, specifically so that it integrates with their Office platform, because they know their program itself is called Copilot, and that's the quickest way to a user, is to attach it to their products that are already widely sold. Google's incorporating AI into its search engine features. So I think they've gotten to the point where the AI itself is good enough for public consumption. Now they're trying to get people hooked onto a specific program as quickly as possible.
Well, and monetizing it, right? So if you're using Microsoft Word or Outlook or whatever, like how are you going to monetize the AI generator? It's just going to be it has to be another subscription service. And, do you want to write the email yourself out of Outlook, or do you want the AI generator to write it?
As far as integrating into the hardware, this is something that I'm trying to think how many years ago it was now that we did the show. We talked about that. We talked about really this is where AI is going. You're going to have your new laptop, desktop, whatever, and it's going to all have that AI already built in. And right now, I can take a look at my desktop, and right there on the right side, guess who's pretty little, what is that, an infinity sign? It is over there that wants me to use it, right? It's Copilot. And then you have Gemini that's already integrated into Google, the search engine there. And what I'm kind of curious about with this is, not necessarily the integration of the devices themselves, but and the software is at what level do you kind of have the ability to kind of toggle on or off? Can you start to separate yourself from this? And is it just going to be seamless integration moving forward? And like you were talking about subscription services, like, there are quite a few of those out there where AI has been integrated into some kind of a design where it's a niche that you want to have a little extra help, or you want to have this part taking over even in, design concepts and element writing. It's not just the writing that this is helping out with or being integrated with. It's you name it. It's your drawing creatives and other parts to the world out there that are integrating it here. So I don't really have much to go on as far as what they're really meaning inside of this integration on the AI and what that outcome looks like. So I'm fascinated. Megan Henney, thank you again. It's like you just get out there and write for Money on Tap, don't you? And we appreciate you for doing it because we love what you got here. This is Fox Business. Investors are snatching up 1 in 5 homes for sale in new hurdle for buyers. Real estate investors, right? They're scooping up affordable housing in the U.S. Makes sense, doesn't it? That investors would want the affordable housing market to be able to rent one of those pieces that has incredible numbers behind it when you take a look at how much rent has increased over the last 40 years. And predictive, it probably will continue to go up, right? And these are investments that have done well. Now, it did dip, and this is during COVID. There was a little bit of a pause there. And you might think, yes, because of the interest rates, again, that is a bit more of a pause. But guess what? The buyers out there in this market got cash. And so interest rates are not necessarily what's so sensitive to them. And people are still needing homes. So supply and demand is working. And that's what this is about, just the amazing amount of numbers that are being pushed through in the market for real estate by the investors.
When I think of investors buying up real estate, kind of the first image I have would be kind of more higher end, kind of expensive homes, places that they can invest a little into in turn for a significant profit. But the statistics support otherwise. They say 47.5% of this invested money is going into the lower priced home end of the market, as opposed to 28.5%, which is geared towards the higher end of the market. So I think to Seth's point, these hedge funds and REITs and these large corporate entities are purchasing up the lower end of the market specifically to secure that rental market, which has continued to increase year over year with that lack of supply.
Well, you guys know that I am the number one conspiracy theorist on this planet for this show. So I find this extremely strange. I was talking with Dan and Seth earlier on this before we started the show, and I said, this article is so bizarrely interesting to me because, as a person who invests and buys, investments, whether it's real estate or, stocks, bonds, mutual fund, whatever ETFs we're doing for clients. And, we've been successful over the last 20 some odd years. We understand investments. Like, this is what we do. It's part of our life. And I cannot in any form understand, BlackRock or whatever, or any of these big entities, or Soros buying single family homes for $464,000 average on that 28%, Dan, at 8% or 7% interest rates, because they're not, I just can't understand it unless there's some other thing going on. And I was talking about the 15-minute cities and all of this stuff, and I'm sure some of our listeners are familiar with it. If you're not familiar with a 15-minute city, you should look it up. But I would wonder if a lot of this capture of real estate is really inside specific geographic circles. That's what we chatted about. And I just don't find this as valuable as if, the rental markets, we have a low supply on single family homes. They're buying them all up to rent them out. But they've been building skyscrapers made out of cement that people can't damage in the rental market for, 50 years or longer. And, they want these things so that they're basically, have zero maintenance as much as possible. And single family homes, they're made out of sheetrock wood. Like, people don't take care of things. Like, this to me just seems like not a great investment unless there's some sort of knowledge they have, ulterior motive they have, or something, because it's just not, I can think of, they've got enough money they could go buy land and build a skyscraper. Do they just want the land? Is that what they want? They want this area that they're buying in? I don't know. It's just 1 in 5 homes. That's incredible. And if that is not a red flag for people, I'm not sure.
It's a tough market to buy in, period, because of how competitive it is. And, this is actually something that'll be fun for us to tee up a little bit here for Brad Wolf, Atlas North Real Estate, that is just about to hop on with us. He's in the waiting room, folks. So without too much further ado, we got to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to get into your Boomer-approved moves, your next step in real estate with Brad Wolf. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hello, everyone. This is Dan Mickelon of Brayshaw Financial Group. Are you looking for professional guidance to kickstart your investing journey? Look no further. Brayshaw Financial Advisors are here to help. Our team of experts will provide you personalized advice tailored to your financial goals. Visit us at BrayshawFinancial.com today and schedule your free consultation. Brayshaw Financial, investing made easy.
Thank you for joining us for Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. And now, more of this week's show with Ben, Seth, and Dan.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. Yes, we have got the show for you, your family. Pretty much everyone that you know right now needs to grab a hold of this because of the information that you're about to receive on the Boomer-approved moves, your next step in real estate. It's, there's been, first of all, thank you, Brad Wolf, for joining us here at Money on Tap today.
You bet.
Good to have you aboard with us. We did a little bit, Brad. We introduced you a little bit, kind of teased the show a little bit up front with who you are, why you're on the show with us today, what the topic is, really the value we feel that you're going to be able to bring to the listeners here today. With the designation that you have with the seniors now in this population, the boomer generation, moving through real estate in a very different way in how the senior approved designation is one of those things that is really unique and very helpful for our listeners, as well as you having a national presence where no matter where somebody's at today, listening to Money on Tap, they're going to want to get your information. They're going to want to make sure that they have the ability to reach out to you and connect with you because of your national network, that you really do a lot of this kind of placing people into the correct relationships so that they can be successful in getting the questions that they need in their market answered, or moving through the transactions that a lot of the time are multi-state transactions when we're talking about estates and kind of, assets passing through this transition, especially with the boomer generation. If that's not you, guess what? This is also a show that's going to apply, because you probably have your number one asset as real estate, and the national laws or national law transition there. You'll help me out with this, Brad, I'm sure. What's going on in this marketplace? Because guess what? We had a Money in the News pop up a couple of months ago now that was like, hey, wait a second. What's going on with real estate? What are we going to do? How do people need to be prepared for this future in real estate transactions? So thank you for being here to help sort it out with us and be a resource for all of our Money on Tappers and clients and their family as well.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
The big question for you right now, Brad, help us to understand what in the world's going on in real estate. Where have these laws changed, not changed? What's the big whoop? What's the difference for people that are either, don't have any experience or are wanting to engage in real estate, or even have, multiple transactions under their belt and just need to make sure that, they've got the right people in place and they really understand how this is going to work? And if you can, just give us a little bit, get us caught up, and take us from there.
Thanks, Seth. The key to all of this, as far as a senior real estate specialist goes, is that we are trained to think about what is important to the seniors out there. What do they have to consider regarding selling their main family home, or taxes, the consequences, how to work with their family, all of that. So when it gets into the senior side, we have a lot of contacts throughout the country that we can set them up with, whether they're downsizing or doing estate planning or figuring out where that nest egg is going to go. When you ask about the laws, the law changes that are out there in the real estate world right now are really designed to try to let buyers negotiate their own fee with their agent. And so it separates the commissions from the buyer's side commission to the listing side, so that can all be negotiated to protect the consumer. It can get kind of complicated, but the key is making sure that they get in cahoots with a strong agent who can explain it to them, walk them through the process, and let them know the pros and the cons.
Hey, Brad, you just mentioned this term, and I know when we were getting kind of ready for the show beforehand, you made reference to the phrase professional downsizer. And when I think about the senior market and some of the issues and hassles that come along with moving and trying to kind of find the right size next opportunity, tell me a little bit about that, because that term just really caught my eye. I'm interested.
Sure. After a whole bunch of years of collecting things in people's houses, it can be completely overwhelming for them to think about how am I going to downsize enough to move? And if their kids are local, great. If their kids are not, then they can feel like they're on their own. So the professional downsizer comes up with ideas such as, if you have 8 vases and you don't want to make 8 decisions, you just pick your favorite 2, right? Or if you have something that is got a special story behind it, rather than holding on to it, you can take a picture of it, and then you can still tell the story and things like that. So they give people ideas on how to make, how to reduce down their belongings so they can make their move without it being a very, very stressful situation.
That's incredibly interesting. So these are conversations we have with people all the time is, hey, and the depth of the conversation is significantly bigger than just the vase, right? I mean, it's, I was just talking to a client probably a week or two ago, and, they're getting ready to move into kind of it's really going to be an apartment, but eventually moves to assisted living and nursing care and all of that stuff. But they're just moving in, honestly, with a bunch of friends who already live there. And they're like, we're moving to a 1-bedroom apartment from our 5 5-bedroom home with a basement that's designed for homeschooling. Like, we have more stuff that we know what to do with. None of our kids really want this home. We know it would be good for a young family. But I talked to them about bringing their family home, because they're planning on moving in the fall. Bring your family home, set up something every month, whether it's Zoom or this, and just go through a room. Do you want this? Do you want that? You don't? Speak now or forever hold your peace. But, so from a professional downsizer perspective, how do you bring this? Like, how do you get someone to sign up for this? Like, how did somebody, I never knew of a professional downsizer. That's news to me. I've been talking to people about how to do some of this stuff kind of logically, but how does this come about that people say, oh, professional downsizer, that's exactly what I need? Where does that come from?
I think it often has to do with the dynamics of people's situations. If their kids are there and can help them through the process and everything seems to be going smoothly, that's great. You may not need one. But if somebody is feeling overwhelmed and they're feeling on their own, that advisor can come in and give them a lot of, it's even just emotional support in choosing what they need to get rid of, in helping them get things delivered to the Goodwill or some other nonprofit that would be helpful in their community, so that they take just their favorite things with them. And so as a senior real estate specialist, we have contacts that we can put them in touch with to be able to accomplish those goals.
I think one of the things I've talked about this, and I mentioned it earlier in the show in the intro piece, the average person, baby boomer right now today, their home is the largest asset that they own by a large margin. It's scary that, very few people have retirement plans that are larger than the value of their home. And a lot of these people have presumed that they would sell their house and downsize and take a portion of those assets and utilize those for retirement. And the conundrum that I'm asking you in this question is, people, these over 55 communities and these apartment places and so forth, they're almost as expensive as some of their homes. I don't know if you've experienced that. I mean, I was actually talking to somebody. They're like, yeah, I could sell my house for $450,000, but this over 55 communities, $389. I'm not going to realize as much money. That's one thing. And then there are people who have large disparities. Their house is worth $1 million, $1.5 million now, and you got a lot of land or something, and they do have the opportunity to kind of reallocate some of that award or reward from owning that house for so long into investments and so forth. But can you speak a little bit about the advice and how you walk through this with people? And so just so our listeners can say, hey, what's the experience going to be when I call Brad or I call a senior specialist?
Sure. So it really starts with asking a whole bunch of questions and trying to get a feel for what people's situation may be. For example, they may want to sell their larger home and buy a smaller detached home in a 55-plus community, which, aside from the fact that it's a 55-plus community, there aren't going to be a ton of differences. Or they may be looking to go into a adult foster or senior living or retirement center. So depending upon their health and depending upon what their long-term plans are, really, it's asking the questions to help them figure out what's the best environment for them. And if they're going to transfer funds into buying a new house, that's one thing. If they're moving into a facility, then they're going to be looking, how do I invest funds to make sure that I have enough to carry me through the rest of my life? So we ask those questions. We have contacts to help them find facilities if that's the direction they go. Or a traditional realtor would be able to help them find a replacement home in a 55 community if there's going to be a step there first.
One of the things in that particular end of the market that we encounter is, when people are, essentially forced to sell because they've lost a spouse or, health circumstances dictate that, or it's pressure from the kids because they see their parents fading in some form or fashion. So how do you counsel people around, what's the right time to consider that so that you're making this transition, you're making that sale, under your own momentum, not because you have these outside pressures that might force you to take less or make decisions you wouldn't otherwise make.
Right. I call it aging gracefully, and I think it's facing the fact that our health changes, our needs change, and trying to figure out how can I control the situation. I can sell the things I want to sell. I can donate what I want to donate, move to a home I want to in my own timing, in my own way, unless I wait too long. And then if I'm hurt or there's an illness or something and people are forcing me to do things, it just doesn't feel the same. So if people can come to grips with what their future is going to look like and make plans maybe a little bit earlier than others, then they're in full control. And quite honestly, one of the benefits of moving early is if you want to travel the world, you don't have to worry about the same security issues when you are in a retirement home situation. So it gives you an incredible amount of flexibility in your life.
You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us or Brad Wolf at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. We are in our Boomer Approved Moves show, Your Next Step in Real Estate. Our guest today is Brad Wolf, who is a senior approved specialist in real estate and bringing some amazing knowledge to the table with us. We're going to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Hey, this is Seth Cressman with Brayshaw Financial Group. Are you looking for a hassle-free way to invest? Look no further than Brayshaw Financial Group. With Brayshaw Financial Group, you can start investing with as little as $100 and enjoy a user-friendly platform with diverse ranges of investment options. Visit Brayshaw Financial Group and start your investment journey today. Brayshaw Financial Group, investing made easy.
We appreciate you listening to Money on Tap with Ben, Seth, and Dan. You can contact us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. And now, more of this week's program.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. Hey, I realize a bunch of you just went and subscribed to the podcast, and I want to thank you for that. And when you're subscribing, please don't forget to send us a message at info@yourmoneyontap.com. Why? Because we have Money on Tap gear for you. We'd love to send that out to you. And welcome you to the family, welcome you to the community of Money on Tap. And while we're at it, let's not waste any more time with that. Let's get into it with Brad Wolf, our senior specialist in real estate, here with us today.
So, Brad, I have a question for you. So how did you become, what was the driving force to say, I need to become a senior specialist? I know this has a personal flair to it, but if you wouldn't mind sharing, that would be wonderful.
Sure. You know, I've been selling real estate now for over 20 years, and I've enjoyed it very, very much. My world changed a bit a few years back when my own mother developed Alzheimer's. And I started struggling with, how are we going to get her moved? Where are we going to send her? How are we going to get through her stuff? Are we going to fix up her condo before we sell it? And I realized all these questions are going to be coming up for people that are my age who are dealing with their own parents. And it became a lot more than just selling real estate. It became helping that older person who maybe wants me to slow down a little bit, re-explain something. Maybe they don't have a computer to do the DocuSign things. They want to sit and have a cup of coffee. I like their stories. I like their lives. There's so much that they have to share that sometimes the world moves so fast people don't listen. So I enjoy that. And by the way, it also develops my business.
Yeah, I mean, I actually can relate with that a lot. I find the people we meet to be tremendously interesting, the stories, the lives they've lived. I mean, there's a lot of incredible people that we have the opportunity of serving. And I really like the ability to hear the experiences of people. It's humbling actually to just kind of be sitting with somebody who served in the military for 20 some odd years and was in major wars and it's just, there's a lot of really interesting scenarios there. So you have a national network, like you work with a lot of people. Can you share a little bit about, because there's baby boomers listening to this. There's Gen Xers listening to this show. There's Gen Zers, probably not a millennial anywhere in sight. I'm just kidding. But people need this kind of help and support. Can you share a little bit about your networking and because a lot of our listeners are desperate for this kind of help?
Sure. Well, first of all, I align myself with an international company, Keller Williams. But more importantly than anything, what I try to get people to do is to reach out to me as the first point of contact, anything related to real estate. I can make a few calls and connect people with an agent over in Florida or Maine or Texas. Those connections make it so you're not picking a random person, but you're being connected with somebody who can communicate, who has experience, who understands your special needs or your situation. So those connections, I would like to think, are super valuable to people throughout the United States. And we've got a bunch of deals going in Chicago right now. Referred a couple people along the West Coast and a couple in Florida recently. So we're all over the place.
I think that's important because I think, when it comes to real estate and your family and your parents, a lot of kids know that their parents' home and their assets eventually will go on to them. So there's not like, it's not a, some people think of that as like, kind of like underhanded or something, but, and kids don't want to feel like, hey, listen, I'm looking out for my interests. But the truth is there's a value there that's part of the family's value, and doing that well and right is really important. And I think, for our listeners, I think what's really important is you guys hear that, you can have a connection with Brad. You can reach out to us. We getting somebody on the initial stage to get you in a direction and a connection first and foremost versus, stabbing at this in the dark yourself is really, really important, because ultimately, getting the most value out of real estate for your parents or for yourself is really important to understand. Now, Brad, I guess the question I have for a lot of, what's going through my mind, I'm sure my listeners here, they're all kind of all over the place, but can you share some stories about some of the advice you give both kids and or seniors that are looking to downsize, what they should and shouldn't do, and how, or is there a litmus test to whether you should or shouldn't do something?
Before I get into that, I just want to make a quick comment on something you said. It is, and we do both situations, but it is way easier to plan ahead and navigate the waters of exchanging houses than it is to come in last minute when everything is in chaos and people have made mistakes and they haven't planned, and try to unpack all of that. So
we're not promoting chaos here, but no, I know
the planning is so important ahead. But as far as advising the kids in the family, for me, I guess it's realizing it's more than just the stuff. It's more than just the process. There's a lot of emotion. There's a lot of identity. There's a lot of just anxiety around the whole topic. And so surrounding yourself with the right people, slowing the process down by planning well ahead, those can be hugely impactful. Trying to make it enjoyable about rehousing the items that have been in the family for a long time. It could be very exciting as opposed to a negative or gosh, I'm getting rid of this. It's like, oh gosh, when I go to my kid's house, I'm going to see this on their hearth. So there's a lot of little details there that are a lot of fun to work through.
What about like fixing up the kitchen, painting the house. Like when do people, like seniors aren't like, if someone said to me, hey, you got to go paint the garage or paint the house or do something, like there would be a point in time where I would say, yeah, I could probably go out and paint that garage and do it. But now you're 70, 75, 80, you're not going out there and painting the garage. So with thoughts around all of these things.
Yeah, everyone's situation is different, but by and large, a lot of seniors would prefer to sell the home the way it is. What we try to encourage them to do is to get things cleaned up as tidy as they can, to reduce dams so that the house is easier to tour, but not necessarily update. You update one room, the next room's going to look rough, and you update that next room, and then the third room's going to look rough. So we try to get in for the least expense, the least effort, but make it clean and tidy, and then figure that the next buyer is going to come in and update things to their desires. So it can be pretty simple if that's what's important to people.
That's a relief. Dan, I know you have a question.
Yeah, kind of flipping into the other end of the market, if the first-time home buyer or people that are new to the real estate world, circumstances have changed since I last bought a home. Now there's no inspections, waive the inspection, cash in hand. It's like an auction on the front lawn. You get, an open house, you better be ready with the checkbook. Things have significantly changed. Give us your feel for that landscape and any advice you might offer people that are on kind of the other end of the market.
Yeah, the market has really been hanging in there. It has slowed down some. Inventory has picked up some. But if something is priced right, or if it's a unique property or it's a cool property, they're still selling very, very fast. And so the key, I would say, is making sure you surround yourself with a solid team, right? Know what your finances are. Have a professional mortgage professional that can help you through getting your pre-approval. And then have a competent agent that will help strategize. You've got to learn the market, learn the process, and then confidently be able to step in. So I show homes to people well before they're ready, so that they're learning the market. That way, when the time comes that they're ready, they can confidently jump in, write their offer, and go with conviction. That's what it takes if you're in a competitive situation, which is still out there.
Really interesting thing that you just said there, Brad, where part of the process for you is not just getting the pre-approval and all those ducks in a row, but it's actually looking like like that's a kind of a training period for people to kind of get acclimated for, hey, this is what writing an offer looks like, or how this offer could go, how we could structure, why we would structure. Those parts and pieces are just an education inside of the whole process for you. Gosh, that might really kind of help alleviate, I think, some of the fear and anxiety that comes up for people with this unknown quantity out here of a big purchase.
Yeah, just even educating people on what people offered, how they closed, was how the structure was. Like, be prepared for this stuff. Like, be cash ready. Be this much. I love that, Brad. That's fantastic. I mean, a lot of people are looking to buy a house in the next 6 months to a year, but they have no idea what they're even walking into. I love it.
Right. It's amazing. And so we try to have about an hour-long consult up front that talks about, what are the pitfalls that we may run into? What are the steps? We give them an outline so they know here's a checklist of what we're going to go through. And if that takes away the fear, then the process becomes a lot more fun. And I've based my entire career on making sure that it's a fun process to buy a house. Some people might roll their eyes at that, but I don't know why I love this business so much, but I do.
Well, I can relate with that. People roll their eyes and say, "How do you do what you do, guys?" We don't like. I don't like talking about numbers or investments, but we understand. We love it.
Well, I sure appreciate you being here with us today, Brad. And we're going to take a quick break. You're listening to Money on Tap, and we're talking about Boomer-approved moves, your next step in real estate with Brad Wolf, senior specialist here with us today. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for personalized guidance to kickstart your investing journey? Look no further. Brayshaw Financial Group and our planners are here to help. Our team of experts will provide personalized advice tailored to your financial goals. Visit BrayshawFinancial.com today to schedule your free consultation. Brayshaw Financial, investing made easy.
You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. And now, more Money on Tap with Ben, Seth, and Dan.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. We're talking about boomer-approved moves, your next step in real estate with Brad Wolf. And if you're wondering how to get in touch with Brad, you can reach out to Brad at the same number, 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. Happy to get you in touch with Brad. Or guess what? You can probably just Google Brad Wolf. He's everywhere. Everybody knows this guy. He's the best. He's the greatest. So we're glad to have him here with us and wrapping up Money on Tap today. In that same vein, we've covered a lot, Brad. We've still got probably so much more that we could, part of what I think would be interesting for us here to try to land the plane of Money on Tap is a little bit about what we just talked about in Money in the News, where there's roughly 20% of the buying that's happening out there coming from REITs and big money, institutional money is what we would call that, as well as the interest rate scenario with people that are, kind of wondering, hey, can I even be in this game? Is the landscape viable for me to go into a transaction and be successful? And also kind of the future, I guess, where we're coming from, some of those parts or pieces that are on the board right now with us and what the future looks like for people going through these scenarios and wanting to find success for themselves and their families.
Sure. You've mentioned a lot there. But the institutional buyer topic is really interesting nationally. Here in Portland, Oregon, it is not as big of a deal. The landlord laws here are lean very much toward the benefit of the renter. And so we don't get as many institutional buyers here. But down in Texas and other places throughout the U.S., institutional buyers are coming in and gobbling up a lot of your entry-level housing. It's interesting. There's not as much entry-level housing being built, especially locally here. People look at the profit margins and things, and builders are building more your second or third home, but not as many first-time, entry-level homes. So that affects our inventory as well. When we look at interest rates, we've got a definite trend going on where people are saying, hey, I want to buy a new house, but I don't think I'm going to sell my current home. My interest rate is so low, I'm just going to hold on to it. And they buy in addition. So that affects inventory as well. So if we're not building the entry-level homes, institutional buyers are coming in and taking more than their fair share maybe. And then we see sellers choosing not to sell. That creates a lot of competition, and it protects the value of homes out there. It's interesting. This gets so complex, and we've talked about so many different things. Some people can get fearful or intimidated by the process. It's really not that complicated if you sit down with somebody that can help you navigate it. And so I think people need to be informed, need to dig in and see what their options are, as opposed to saying, oh, this is overwhelming, so I'm going to peace out. So I think it's good for them to reach out to you guys, reach out to us, reach out to Mortgage Professional, and get prepared.
Thank you so much, Brad. It has truly been a pleasure to have you with us here at Money on Tap. Is there any last thing that we can kind of make sure that we're communicating here with our listeners today?
I believe that my role in the community is to provide a service and information, education, answer questions. So I would say if people want to call and ask any questions, don't be shy about it. Reach out to the number you're giving them, and they'll be able to reach me, and we'll have a good conversation.
Fantastic. Yeah, that aligns perfectly with us here at Money on Tap, is we're here, to help. We're here to answer questions. We're here to make sure that we, help you in your journey to be successful as an investor. Speaking of, that's going to do it for us here at Money on Tap. You guys, make it a great week. Be successful in your investing. Make sure to reach out to us here at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. Get a hold of us, get a hold of Brad, and make it a great week. We'll see you.
The views expressed are not necessarily the opinion of this radio station and should not be construed directly or indirectly as an offer to buy or sell any securities mentioned herein. Investing is subject to risks, including loss of principal invested. No strategy, product, material, or tool mentioned can assure a profit nor protect against loss. Please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information, products, materials, or tools mentioned should be relied upon when coordinated with individual professional advice. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. This show may be subsidized in whole or in part by a product sponsor or issuer. Securities and advisory services offered through Osaic Wealth Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC, and a registered investment advisor. All other services offered through Brayshaw Financial Group LLC are independent of Osaic Wealth Incorporated. Osaic Wealth Incorporated and Brayshaw Financial Group do not provide tax or legal advice. Main office is located at 116 South River Road, Bedford, New Hampshire 03110, and can be reached at toll-free 855-226-8551.
Well, bye.